So we're going to take a look at the charts on MSTY and ULTY, and then we're also going to take a look at an option play that I did today on SPY. Hello my friends, this is Legend. So today we're going to take a look at MSTY, ULTY, and then we'll finish the video up looking at an option trade that I did on SPY, which is the S&P 500. So let's just go ahead and jump right on in. So here we are on the charts, and we're looking at MSTY currently. And as you can see today, we did have a red day. We are down about 32 cents on the day, and that's sitting at a close of $15.41. So that's about a 2% drop on the day. You can see that the resistance and the support line that we had drawn in for MSTY here, that the candles are still staying in between that, right? We did come up and try to test it a little bit, but then came back down. Now keep in mind, we will be going X this week, right? The announcements of the distributions will be in the morning. So that's going to be exciting. I'm hoping for at least $1, right? But it has been coming down. And the question is will we be below that $1 this time? Now, as you know, as I've shown my spreadsheet before on MSTY, I only need a little over $2 worth of distributions, and then I'll have my MSTY paid off. And then at that point, I can earn those distributions free and clear. So we'll see what we get paid out, as I'm looking forward to that announcement. I do have 475 shares still at a purchase average of $24.21. I still have that $16 put as well, and that's been pushed out to January the 16th of 2026. And that gives me plenty of time, hopefully, for MSTY and MR to move on back up, and then this can just expire worthless. And that's my plan. Now let's just go ahead and flip it right over to the adjusted chart, and let's look at the indicators. All right, so here we are on the adjusted chart, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to turn on the Bollinger Band. So I'm just going to hide these lines, and then we'll flip on the Bollinger Band. And as you can see, that Bollinger Band is tight, right? It is starting to squeeze in on those candles. We did drop below the midpoint on that Bollinger Band, and that RSI2 is pretty low as well. It's sitting at 13.49. Now, if that thing would drop below that 10, and that candle is on the bottom side of that Bollinger Band, that could potentially be a buy point for me. But as I've stated in the past videos, I think I'm going to hold off just a little bit, because I really want that goal accomplished of getting MSTY paid off. So I need to capture about $2, just a little over $2 worth more of distributions, and then I can get back to buying MSTY, increasing those share counts, all while using the YieldMax dime, right? So that's my plan. But as you can see though, that momentum is dropping down, right? We are getting a little bit of a turn on that MACD. It is coming back down. But let's take a look at MR to better understand where MSTY could be headed. All right, so here we are on MR, and we have the moving averages on. If you remember a couple videos back, we were talking about MR getting up close to that 200 MA. And I told you it would test it and it'd probably get knocked down, right? Because that 200 MA, that area is no joke, right? It's going to take a lot of momentum to bust through that. I was hoping that we were going to, but like I said, it is chipping away at it, but not yet. So it did drop it back down. I'm hoping that we can kind of turn it around and come up and start chipping away at that 200 again, but only time will tell. You can see that the momentum on MR is dropping, which that is not what we're looking for in order for that candle to be going up to testing that 200 MA. Now I've turned the lines back on here, and as you can see, this line right here where we did come down, touch it here, and then came back up, and then we've basically just kind of been bouncing on top of it, right? We did break below it with the wicks, but most of the time we're just sitting here bouncing right off of it. And look where we're at again, right there on it, right? that candle for today is sitting right on that support line right here. So what we need for MSTR is to respect that support line and start bouncing off of it once again. Now it can stay on it, but I'd prefer it to jump off of that and get to moving back up and start testing that MA200 once again. But when you have that momentum dropping here, that's not going to help us to move this back up. So hopefully we can get a little bit of a turnaround tomorrow and start getting a little bit more buyers in there and see if we can't move MSTR on back up. At least bounce off of this support line that we've drawn in right here. At least that is my hope. Now for MSTR, I still have my 16 shares. Now my average is at 355.46. So this area right here, which is just above that MA200, right? Just above it, because the MA200 is currently at a value of 353. And my average being 355, so I'm just above it. So I feel like I'm in a pretty good position. And if that RSI2 does drop below 10, I might buy a little bit more of MSTR. Even though I'm holding off on MSTY, and the only reason I'm holding off is because I want to recoup the rest of that little bit of capital that I have in MSTY to get that one paid off. Then I will be buying more shares of MSTY with those distributions. But MSTR, I can buy more shares because they're not paying a distribution or dividend anyway. I'm just looking for that price, right? So by buying at a lower price, I can average my price down. But I don't want to necessarily buy every single time I get a red candle, right? So I need it to be at the bottom of the Bollinger Band, and I need that RSI2 to be below 10. So let's see, where is it at on the Bollinger Band? And there we are on the Bollinger Band. And I'll hide those lines just to clean it up. And you can see, we are at the bottom half of that Bollinger Band. And if it does come on back down a little bit more, definitely that will cause that RSI2 to drop below 10. And that would be a very good potential buy point for me. I don't necessarily want MSTR to come on down, but I don't mind it to come on down temporarily, pick me up, and then it can take off, right? So that's what I do, is I buy the little quick pullbacks, and that's the reason I'm looking for that RSI2 to below 10 and on the bottom half of that Bollinger Band. All right, so now let's just go ahead and jump right over and let's take a look at ULTY. All right, so here we are on ULTY, and we're looking at the day chart for this one, and we are on the actual chart here. So this is the actual movements of the candles. We did have a red day today. It dropped 3 cents, which is a 0.5% drop on the day. Zooming in on the candles here, you can see we did have our resistance line drawn here and our support line drawn here. So we are still staying right in between that, staying above that support line, but not getting quite up to that resistance line. I still have my 150 shares at an average of $5.66 per share. I do still have that buy order out there for $5.30. If it did happen to drop out, it'll pick those up. Let's flip it over to the adjusted chart and let's see what the indicators are showing us. All right, so here we are on the adjusted chart, and we're looking at the Bollinger Band first here, and you can see we are at the top of that Bollinger Band. So definitely not a buy zone for me, even though that RSI did drop today, but it's still sitting at 42.9. So it's still too high for a buy for me. I'm looking for the bottom half of that Bollinger Band and that RSI2 to be below that 10 mark right there. So even though it's not a buy, it is still moving up. Even though we did have a slight pullback today, it did not drop below yesterday's low, right? We're sitting right there on top of that yesterday's low. Both of them are at 562 for the low, and the high today was 569 for a closing price of ULTY at 564. ULTY will also be going X this week, and the announcement will also be tomorrow as well. So both ULTY, MSTY, SMCY, and a few other of our favorites in Group D will be announcing their distributions on Wednesday. That momentum here is slightly down, and you can see that the MACD has went from a sharp turn up to a little bit more of a level line here. So it did lose a little momentum today, but of course we did have red volume, a red candle, and such, right? So that does make sense that the momentum would have pulled back a little bit. Now, of course, if we turn around and we start moving this on back up again, then hopefully we'll start seeing this momentum here build on back up and start seeing some green volume for the day. I think it's probably everyone's guess that we'll get about 9 cents again, but I would say that's probably pretty much everyone's guess, as that's what it's been for the last couple weeks, right? All right, so now let's just go over to SPY and let's see what option play I did today. All right, so here we are looking at SPY, and you can see that we are on the day chart here. Today we did have a red day, right? We went down $3.63 for the day. So that created that red candle right there, right? So let's just go ahead and look at the 5-minute chart, and we'll zero in about where I got in and then what happened by the end of the day. All right, so here we are on the 5-minute chart, and as you can see, it opened around this 666 area right here, went up to about 667.34, and man, did it drop, right? It dropped all the way down to as low as 661.98, so just under $662 a share. So when I'm going to do an option on SPY, the first thing I'd like to do is I like to get the high and the low of the day before. Okay, so there we go. I've got a green line right here at the top of yesterday, right? And I've got a red line at the bottom of yesterday, which ended up being pretty close to about the open of yesterday. So yesterday, all it did pretty much is go up, right? I mean, it went from about 662 all the way to 667 just in the one day. So yesterday was a crazy day in the market, right? Another rocket ship up, right? But look what it did today. It dropped all the way back. So that could be a little bit of a support right there, right? A short-term support. So that's kind of interesting. But of course, at the opening of today, I was not looking at this, right? This part did not even exist. I was up here, all right? And as you can see, we were at around that 666 open, right? And from the previous day, I do have that green line as the previous high. And if you scroll on down, I've got that red line as the previous low. Now, I also like to go ahead and I like to put in the high and low just of the previous few candles, right? So if I'm looking, and let me zoom on in here so you can really see it. All right, here we go. So this is the pre-market, right? So if I'm starting that pre-market day and I'm looking at this candle, I want basically the high or the top of that heel before it starts going back down. So I can draw a line right here, right? Because I'm right here, right? So I go up this hill, and before it starts coming back down that hill, I'll draw my line right there. And the same thing here. Since this is the bottom of the hill before open, I'm going to draw my line right there. So I can draw a horizontal line at the bottom of that hill. And this is just the short term, right? So this is a 5-minute interval just before market open. I want to see where that top of that hill is. So we got it right there, and I want to see where the bottom of the hill is. Well, it started or opened pretty much at the bottom of the hill, right before open. And you could say right here, right? Because that would be the last candle before opening. So right there being the bottom of that hill, and this one right here being the top of that hill. So now we've got all of our lines drawn in, previous high, previous low, and the short-term high, low with these lines right here. So what that tells me is kind of an idea of which way it's going, right? Which way it's heading. Is it going to break on down or what? If I'm looking to get in and get out pretty quick. And when I'm doing an option on SPY, I am doing a daily SPY option trade, okay? So as you can see here, and I'm going to turn off those MAs just to clean it up. So it opened up, it went on past our upper short-term high right here, and it actually went up to yesterday's high, right? It did not break out of that, but actually bounced off of it and started moving down. Then we broke our little short-term low line here, right? Went back up, checked that line, but got rejected, right? And then, of course, that's when it started moving on down. So once it actually started breaking down a little bit below this short-term low line here, I was looking to get into a put, okay? As I'm showing on my app, I placed the order at about 12:15. So let's see where that actually is. And we'll look at our little time stamp right here. You can see, so I'll go to 12:05, 12:10, 12:15. So I saw it dropping, and then around 12:15, it was down to as low as 664.97, okay? So when it did that, I went ahead and put my order in. And what did I write it at? Well, I wrote to sell a put at 664 even, okay? Well, how low did it get at this candle? It got as low as 664.97, right? So it just broke that 665. So I went ahead and wrote that put or sold that put at 664. Well, what did it do? Then it started moving up. And I was asking 50 cents per share for that, being 50 bucks total. Well, when it started moving back up, that 50 cent turned to 40 cent, then it turned to 30 cent, right? And I thought, oh, well, I must have missed it. It was close, but it was a no-go, right? But as it went, it started leveling off a little bit and then started dropping again, right? And as it was dropping right here, and that option was filled. And the timestamp on my fill is at 120 or 1320, all right? So at 1320 right here. So it just started breaking the midpoint and that went through. Of course, if I would have waited until it got clear down here, I could have earned more premium. But again, you don't know what it's going to do. You don't know where it's going to go. I put the order in back here, right? And when it started moving up, I thought I already missed it. But it did come back down. It executed. So therefore, that put was then live. And that's a 664 put that I sold, meaning that if the price of SPY closes at or below the 664, I would be put those shares and I would have to buy those shares at 664 no matter what the price is. But if that price is under that, I have to buy it at 664. So you can see it dropped and it got as low as 661.98 before starting to move back up. Now, luckily, it ended up ending at 663.21. And I say luckily just simply because I wanted to put those shares, right? Because I want to be now on the call side and I can then sell a call for higher than I purchased. So if I purchase at 664, then as long as I sell a call above that, in other words, 665 and higher, then I will earn price appreciation and also the premium for selling that call. So as you can see, with that put at 664 and the price being 663.21, I am put those shares. So in the morning, my account will show that I own 100 shares of SPY and my average price being 664. So tomorrow, what I'll be looking for is I will be looking for a green day. Right? I'll be hoping for that green day. And I'll hope that it starts moving back up. Hopefully at pre-market, right? Won't hurt my feelings at all. But if we can start moving it back up, then I can sell a call above that price and earn that price appreciation. So anything that I can sell, and as long as I sell above 664, it is a win in the appreciation side of it for me. So I'm excited. And if it does drop, so be it. I'll just wait for it to turn around and start moving back up, and then I'll sell my call again. But even if I get a little short-term pop up, I can sell that call even then still at that 665, and it may blow right on through it. Sell them at that 665. At least that's $100 in a day, right? So not too shabby on that. But of course, if we do open at 665, then I can sell it at 666, and that's $200 price appreciation, right? So $2 times 100 shares. So that's what I'm hoping for, and that's what I will look for tomorrow. So excited about that. As I've been waiting for a pullback, I've just not been able to get into one because all we keep seeing is this, right? We just keep seeing it move up. We haven't seen a down in quite a while, but we'll see what tomorrow brings. So I think I'm going to wrap it up right there. If you don't mind, hit that subscribe button, smash the like button. It'd be much appreciated. And as always, I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Please do your own due diligence before you get into any stock plays. And until next time, Legend out.